All right. Everybody can see me?
Yes.
Are you aware since the early 1990s that you have been purchasing and consuming Frankenstein food without even knowing it? Well, today I'd like to take a closer look at GMOs, and my goal is to inform you of their history, their benefits, and their health concerns. To start with their history, where do GMOs come from? You probably should start with their definition. So, to define a GMO, it is a genetically modified organism, which is where scientists have taken and spliced genes and replaced those genes with other genes of more favorable traits. How are GMOs used, you ask? Good question. In 1988, the US Supreme Court ruled in favor of the commercial use of GMOs. So companies began to research and develop the GMO. By 1994, the first unsuccessful GMO was marketed to our local grocery stores, the Flavor Saver tomato, followed by the first successful GMO crop, Roundup Ready soybeans, brought to you by Monsanto. Shortly after, corn, rice, and sugarcane followed. So now that we talked about where they came from, I'd like to talk about, oh, I'm sorry. Calgene Incorporated was the first to develop the Flavor Saver tomato in 1994. This GMO tomato was modified to retain shelf life. However, this ended up failing. But in all, decades later to the present day, almost 80% of our food on our grocery shelves are GMO products or contain GMOs. Now to talk about some of the benefits of GMOs. GMO benefits are worldwide food security. They are beneficial in crop production, and they're also climate tolerant. Worldwide food security touches on world hunger. These plants are also bacteria resistant, and they have an improved nutrient profile. They are beneficial in crop production because they produce a higher quantity and larger products, as well as increased nutrients. These plants are designed to intervene against viruses as well as resist pests. They are also climate tolerant. These modified genes uh, these modified genes can resist unfavorable climatic conditions, such as the Sudan and Syrian war. Sudan and Syrian war was due to drought leading to food insecurities throughout both countries from 1998 well into the 21st century. Another good example is in Hawaii. By 1997, the ring spot virus decimated Hawaii's fourth largest crop, the papaya. The GMO rainbow papaya now accounts for 77% of crops, which immediately saved their economy. These are some of the examples of the benefits of GMOs. But let's also talk about the potential health concerns. Are GMOs harmful? Well, there's a couple key factors to look at. One, there's insufficient research data at this point. There's potential adverse ecological effects and possibly some health concerns that can come along with it. When we take a look at the insufficient research, the GMO has not been around long enough to really concisely decide whether they're harmful to human consumption or not during prolonged use or the long-term effects. There's also the factor that we don't know the effects on the bacteria resistant genes in our GMO products, how they will have an effect on human health. When we take a look at some of the adverse ecological effects, when we change these genes, we could have adverse effects on these organisms in natural evolution, as well as the weeds that are around these plants we are using, the GMOs, are also becoming bacteria resistant. Another thing scientists are concerned about is plants naturally crossbreed. So when you have a GMO crop next to an organic crop, there really is no way to stop the crossbreeding and changing those genes that way. Another point to look at is the potential health concerns. Unfortunately, not all studies have been positive with GMOs. Some examples are prolonged use of GMOs may lead to health complications. When scientists have done studies with rats concerning modified cornstarch, they actually found the rats to have numerous tumor growths, as well as the main component of GMOs is glyphosate, which simulates estrogen and has resulted in increased breast cancer cases in women. So are GMOs harmful? We're not concrete on our decision yet. We need some more time to do some more research. So today I wanted to give you a few goals. In conclusion, I want you to be aware of the GMOs around you, learn their origin and where they came from, understand their benefits, but also be cautious of the adverse effects.
That was really good.
Thanks. All right.
I'll go next if that's all right.
Okay.
Okay. Animal testing dates all the way back to the 3rd and 4th century, and almost as long as it's been around, there have been two sides battling against each other to either promote animal testing or to establish it as cruel and unnecessary. The main argument lies with determining if there is a real reason to test on animals, if the large cost is justifiable, and if the pros outweigh the cons. Scientists who test on animals do it for a variety of reasons. One of those reasons is to advance understanding of things like cell process and vital functions in humans. Animal testing is also used as a model to study various diseases, such as atherosclerosis, emphysema, spina bifida, cancer, and diabetes. Animals are also used to test and develop treatments that are being considered for human use. For example, current animal experiments are testing Parkinson's medication, various therapeutic techniques, and even surgical procedures. Mainly, scientists defend animal testing as being the only way to provide treatments and medications safely to human patients. Many people don't know how much money is allocated to animal testing yearly and would be surprised to hear that it is around $16 billion annually, and that the National Institute of Health also dedicates 40% of its yearly budget for various testing. Some animal tests for things such as chromosome aberration and DNA synthesis cost around $30,000 per test. Other tests, such as involving the eyes of a rabbit, only cost around $1,800. Although the price varies, it is a general trend to spend exorbitant amounts of money on animal testing. The next logical question people have is the cost worth it? Going over the pros and cons from both sides can help each individual come to their own conclusion. A large majority of people, including animal rights activists, conclude that animal testing is cruel, unreliable, and uses flawed research and experimentation. They would cite that animals being tested were injured without care and that withholding food and waters from animals for certain tests is abominable. They would also cite the unreliable animal-to-human test success rate, explaining how many tests that have worked for animals have ended up not working for humans. Another argument against animal testing is that many of the experiments are said to be done sloppily and without a great deal of care for the animal's well-being. Animal activists who are against animal testing understand that doing these tests cause unnecessary pain and suffering. However, there are two sides to every coin. Some scientists and other medical workers feel strongly that animal testing is the only way to advance human medicine. Animal testing is something that could even help sick animals become healthier as they test treatments. Most importantly to scientists and medical professionals is that animal testing helps to protect human safety. The argument basically comes down to believing if possible animal harm is worth possible human medical advancements. To relate this to current events, try and decide if you believe animals should be tested on to find a cure for the coronavirus pandemic. As of now, the government and science facilities believe animal testing is needed greatly to become more aware of human functions and to begin developing cures. In conclusion, animal testing has many purposes, a large budget, and a division between supporters and opposers.
Okay. I'm not muted, right? Okay.
No, you're good.
Are you confused and overwhelmed when you walk down the grocery store and look at all the sunscreens available? Do you know which one to choose? When it comes to sunscreen, there are three main criteria to consider. Those include what rays are sunscreen protecting against? Is it a physical or chemical sunscreen? And what level of SPF protection does the sunscreen provide? Sunscreen protects your body against ultraviolet rays, which are the most damaging rays to human skin. So there are two types of ultraviolet rays. Those are UVA and UVB rays. UVA rays penetrate your skin more deeply, and they are more involved in premature skin aging and wrinkle formation. UVB rays penetrate the top layer of your skin, and those are more responsible for things like skin burning and skin tanning and skin cancer. When you're looking for sunscreen, you should be looking for a sunscreen that offers broad spectrum protection, which would be it protects against both UVA and UVB. When you're looking at the label, SPF isn't going to tell you that because SPF is only based on UVB rays. So you need to specifically look for broad spectrum. Sunscreen also comes in two different types. You can get physical sunscreen or chemical sunscreen. Physical sunscreen works by reflecting and scattering the UV radiation. And when you're looking at the label of your sunscreen, the active ingredients are going to be either titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. Chemical sunscreen is a little bit different in that instead of reflecting the UV rays, it absorbs them and then releases them as heat. So when you're looking at the label of your sunscreen, you are going to see ingredients such as oxybenzone, avobenzone, or octocrolene as the active ingredients. Recently, chemical sunscreens have kind of been put under a spotlight because of oxybenzone. Apparently, oxybenzone has been contributing to the bleaching of coral reefs, and Hawaii and the Florida Keys have actually banned their use. However, it's really personal preference which one you want to use. Chemical sunscreens normally have better aesthetics, they have better textures, and they also don't provide that white cast on dark skin the same way that physical or mineral sunscreens do. However, physical sunscreens are also a little bit better in that they are immediately active versus with chemical sunscreens, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to work properly. Also, when looking at sunscreens, you should look at the SPF. So SPF is sun protection factor, and it is a measure of how well your sunscreen is protecting your skin against UVB rays in particular. So SPF is calculated by determining how long it takes your skin to burn when the sunscreen is applied versus without. It is important to note that the SPF scale is not linear. So what that means is that an SPF 30 isn't twice as effective as an SPF 15. In fact, an SPF 15 will protect your skin from 93% of UVB rays versus an SPF 30, which protects your skin from 97% of UVB rays. And in fact, an SPF 50 only protects your skin from 98% of UVB rays. It is recommended by dermatologists that people wear at least an SPF 30 when they go out in the sun. So now that you know the criteria for choosing a sunscreen, I hope that you're more comfortable when shopping for sunscreen. And I also hope that you are more inspired to look at the sunscreens you have hiding in your closets or your bathroom closets and see what protection they actually offer.
Good job.
That's good.
Okie dokie. I will go ahead and do this thing on YouTube, and I will email you both the link. That way we have it to upload.
Perfect. So just, all right, just like to make sure. So we have our midterm coming up, and then we have to do like another informative speech.
Persuasive is our next one.
Wait, the midterm wasn't that.
What?
Did it
Midterm
not?
was, the last day was on the 7th, I think.
It was due to,
Huh?
yeah, the midterm, that was due a while ago.
Yeah, I think that was due on the 7th. Oh, I think she's frozen. I think you're frozen. There you go.
I'm back now. So persuasive is next.
Yes.
Yeah, so our next speech is going to be persuasive. I don't know if that's next week or not. I'll have to look at it, but I know that's definitely the third one. And I think our last one, I don't know if we do it all together or not, is basically our review of this class.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, from what I saw online at like everybody else's, you remember like at the beginning, at the introduction, he put all those people's ones and it just seemed like it was just, there was nobody in him. It was
yeah.
just like, so I don't think those are good people.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, go check
Okay.
on that midterm thing, because I think the last day was on the 7th for that.
It says here that the last day is the 15th.
He might have extended it. I know because he's been, the
He's
due
been
dates
messing
have
with
been confused. I know he's been, you know, like, I think he told Julia, just go by what it says in the lessons itself, because I think there was a conflict between the revised calendar and the lessons. So his response to her, which she sent me a screenshot, was basically like, just go by what it says in the lessons itself is the best way to figure out the due dates at this point.
Yeah, but he just keeps changing them every week though.
Yes, I noticed because I've uploaded stuff because it said it was due, and then I would notice like our outline
Like a week later and it wasn't
for
due
this,
yet.
I think it changed to the 5th of July because of some conflict. Like things that I'm like, did I do that? Did I not? So I kind of just go through each lesson all the time, and I just recheck that I made sure I did everything, because I think it does change because it said to read one chapter, and I read that chapter, and then it turned around and I looked in lessons and it wasn't there anymore. It was a different chapter. I was
Oh, yeah,
like,
chapter 14 just disappeared.
yes. And I read all those and I went through the smart book. So it's completed already, but now I'm like, well, great. When that comes up, I'm not going to have any, I mean, I just have to keep recharging because I've just been reading it through smart book. Because if you go into Connect, some of them will tell you it's locked. But if you get into Connect and you go to the little option on the side that says smart book, you can get in there and still do the practice and get that grade for reading it. So, I mean, I told him I did that because I had already read the whole chapter. And his best advice to Julia was to just go through the lessons. And when you're looking at the lessons, pay attention to those dates. Although it is confusing. He said he doesn't know why that sometimes he puts like week 4, but then week 4 will be above week 3 and it's kind of out of order. He said he does not know why that's happening, but because I told him that was a little confusing to me too. You know, it's easier to look at it chronologically. So his best advice to her, which I kind of been doing, was just looking at the lessons and just I keep clicking in them and I keep going to the grades. I click the grade section and make sure like, oh, is something due? Because sometimes the due date pops up on the bottom, but those aren't always right either because one of our projects were due in 2017. So I have a couple things that tell me that they're actually past due from 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, I get this too.
Yeah, so the due dates, it's a little funky. But I guess as long as we get through it. All right, well, I'm going to stop this recording.